Hello there. This video is going to be a quick run through of the Cheltenham card tomorrow. More not in terms of kind of what I fancy or kind of what stands out, but what's the best way to describe it? A kind of starting point, I suppose, to be watched with a notepad and to use the information as you please. A kind of setting the scene video, I suppose, looking at some various factors as I go through the race cards. But before I get onto that, yes, do pause if you want and make a cup of tea. Get your notebook at the ready if you have any interest in kind of attacking the Cheltenham card in any way at all. In front of you is the members' notes for this meeting. I've had a look through from the start of 2014, well, the last three meetings, just to see what trainers have tended to target this meeting in the past. You can see the kind of three most winning trainers are Hobbs, Nichols and Pipe. And as you flick through the report, you can see various pointers. Each of the kind of top three in their own right have kind of had a bad year within those three. Hobbs, as you can see there with his class 1 and 2, lost a bit last season, but there's a few micro pointers there in terms of the type of profile that they have traditionally done well with. As always with these kind of notes, they're there as starting points and added information as part of wider analysis rather than necessarily just diving in and following them blind. So yeah, that's Hobbs. There's Nichols. Yeah, some caution with him. The last couple of years have been a bit mediocre, but we shall see how he does this year. Again, there's a few areas which he tends to do well with, especially those who he moves down in trip from quite a small kind of sample size. They've been quite effective, etc. So you've got those stats. David Pipe, yeah, he was 0 from 17, one place in 2015. I'm not sure if they had illness or those stats suggest something was wrong. But if you ignored that year, conveniently, then there's obviously a few different and interesting pointers for the type of horse that he has done well with here in the past. His string, I think, is a bit more limited these days. He still does okay with what he has, especially horses for certain owners. He does very well with. So yeah, we'll see how he does, but something to keep in mind. And then a few pointers from those that had kind of three winners or more. The likes of Nicky Henderson, his kind of fancied horses are to be noted with, not necessarily to wade in and back them, but you might be a bit apprehensive about taking them on with much gusto. Then we've got Colin Tizard, who hadn't really done much in the couple of years in 2014 or 15. But in 2016, kind of upped his game and everything he sent here seemed to be running well. So it'll be interesting to see how his go this year as well. Alan King, there's a kind of few pointers there for where to focus on. And the same with Harry Fry. Generally, all of his runners and any runners he has that are fancied are definitely worth a second glance. So that's some pointers there. There are some handicap pointers as well. A couple of micros. When I researched, it was quite interesting how poorly, especially in handicaps, that the Irish bred horses do in terms of the numbers, and they perform way below market expectations. And for whatever reason, GB and French bred horses seem to be the place to focus. We shall see. There's some kind of very exciting numbers within these couple of micros. There's probably a bit of crossover between micro 2 and micro 1, a few kind of double qualifiers, no doubt. But you know, that's a limited number of bets, and with any luck, some of those stats might point to some decent winners. So we shall see. I will highlight the micro qualifiers within the members' posts and try and go through the trainers and pull out any horses of interest to use, as I said, as starting points. And then there's some notes there on the handicaps and the odds in particular. It's very rare, or well, there's been no kind of massive price winners in recent years, and it's been pretty hard to find horses within the 16 to 25 to 1 range that are sent off at that price. Clearly, ideally, we all back a 16 to 25 to 1 shot who gets backed into 10s or 8s and then romps to victory, but it's not always that straightforward. So yes, that's that. I want to set the scene. I'm over on GG's Gold. And what I want to do first of all is just look at trainers that are in form. This is just with those that have runners today, actually, within the last 14 days, who's been doing well. If I organise by winners, I'm not sure why they've doubled there, but you've got Gordon Elliott, who is, well, you can see his stats there for all of his runners in the last 14 days. So his are going quite well. Dan Skelton's are going quite well, as you can see there. The likes of Philip Hobbs, they're going along fine now. Some probably nice profits there. Twiston Davis seems to be going well as still. What we've got, Nicky Henderson, his are going well. They're performing below market expectations, but the IV figure's good, the impact value, and a lot of his will be well backed or probably put in at a shorter price than they should be. But the horses are running well, which is always important. And Nichols, they're not going too badly. Not a reason why you'd be put off necessarily. The likes of Harry Fry, he seems to have been informed for a little while, and his are going well. So you've got those. Fergal O'Brien's, if I scoot down here, you can see here, I'm just trying to pick out some kind of jumps trainers. Kim Bailey, Kim Bailey and Fergal O'Brien are doing well. If I look onto tomorrow, so these are those that have runners. Tomorrow, these are all races you can see. So this is, recent form the last 14 days. I've organised this by winners. Elliott, Skelton, Hobbs, Twister, Nicky Henderson, Evan Williams are not doing too bad. Fergal O'Brien's going well. Kim Bailey's are going okay. Who else on the jumps? Donald McCain, not too bad. If I sort that by win percentage, you can see there's some trainers here. Middleton, he runs Exitas at Cheltenham. Who else have we got who might have runners? I'm not sure. Whittington does. Henderson, he will have some runners. So yeah, his are doing well. Has touched on Kerry Lee's are going okay. And she's got a runner at Cheltenham, so that's interesting maybe. Dan Skelton, they're on fire at the moment. I think he could win with the yard cat probably if he ran it. So yeah, his are worth a second look just on the basis of trainer form. The general message I think from this is all of the big yards that you would expect to kind of do well at a meeting like this are firing and are in form, and it might be quite a hard task for those with a smaller string, but we shall see. So that's that. If I just organise by handicaps, just to see how well those have been doing with their handicap runners, which can be important. You can see McCain, 4 from the last 16, 5 have placed. He's got a couple at Cheltenham, and both of those, for one reason or the other, might look interesting when I have a look, although possibly missed the boat with What Happens Now, who dossed up last time in a similar type of race here. Hobbs is going well in handicaps. Twiston Davis, so you can see the runners he's got there. Worth noting down these trainers that are in very good form. Kerry Lee has touched on. David Pipe's handicappers are going well, and he's just had a 20-to-1 shot as I speak to you, run well at Taunton, who finished in the places and looked like winning until bungling the last, although whether he would have held on, who knows. But his handicappers are certainly going well, so that's something to note. He's certainly in better form than he was in 2015 when going into this meeting. Nicky Richards, but I don't think he has a runner at Cheltenham. Evan Williams, handicapper's not doing too bad. Certainly there's not too many out of form. John Joe is just hard to read, isn't he? Is he in form, out of form? Hard to know. So yeah, there's some ideas there. You can kind of have a look through there. So that's kind of recent form. If I look at course form, this was playing around a bit. In essence, it kind of highlights how competitive Cheltenham is, because there are very few who do too well here. If I organise by winners, yeah, you can see there, they're just hard to pick. Nichols has had a good 5 years at Cheltenham, 47 from 410. Given how competitive the racing is, that's arguably, they're decent stats. If I look down who else, Henderson's dominating. So no shock there that Nichols and Henderson have had the most winners in the last 5 years. Hobbs hasn't done too badly either. His are going quite well. So who else have we got? Anyone else at Cheltenham from that list? David Pipe, again, his last 5 years, 25 winners. Like I said, given the type of racing, it's no surprise the big yards with the best horses and kind of the biggest strings on which they can judge the opposition against and judge the quality of their own horses tend to dominate and do best. So there's no shock there. I'm just trying to look down, see if anything else jumps out. John Joe, again, he's had 22 winners from 207. The thing is, of course, just backing them blind will make you quite poor, so you have to kind of pick and choose, but there's something of interest there. Now, right, yeah, so that's a kind of overview of who's doing well, and let's have a look at the card. The ground, I think, is pretty much good to soft. It's what you would call no excuses ground. Like I said, the idea of this video and this kind of run through of these cards is just to get a feel, not to say what I fancy and what I don't. We'll run through all the different bits and bobs that kind of make race analysis or starting point analysis easy enough when using GG's Gold. So the first thing I suppose we want to look at is trainers in form. As touched on, we've got Henderson, Twiston Davis. Tony Martin looks a bit out of form, as you can see there. Maybe he'll snap back into form, but that's pretty shocking. 0 from 35, 0 places. So we shall see. Maybe he's ill, or who knows. Pipe hasn't, well, he's 1 from 22 in the last year. He can target this meeting. I think, well, at the moment, probably won this race last year, did he? But that was on the back of a run from memory at Aintree, possibly. Dueling Banjos, Kim Bailey hasn't done too well at the track, 2 from 66, but he does have winners here, and that's just a highlight of how competitive it is, really. As we saw that the last meeting, Tim Vaughan had his first winner in about 190 runners here. Whether or not he will go on to have plenty more now, we shall see. So yeah, just looking at trainer form, those that are bouncing on these kind of indicators are Twister and Henderson. Philip Hobbs is going well as well. Although the horse has more letters and numbers, more letters next to his name than numbers on recent form, which probably would be a concern. So that's that. What else can I look at on the race card? If I just look at speed ratings, which you might find of interest, Dueling Banjos for Bailey, he ran at Exeter as if he would come on for the run. He kind of led and dossed up front. This is a completely different test though, so that will be interesting. But interesting enough, I suppose, that Jamie Codd has been booked. What I did kind of note and hammer home after a similar race at the last meeting, that What Happens Now won, was the kind of benefit of having an experienced jockey in Codd. Well, Whaley Cohen is very good in particular around the national fences. Everywhere else a bit iffy, but he has won a Gold Cup in fairness. Codd, Derek O'Connor, they would be up there as being some of the best. Mikey Legg has kind of won around this track as well. Lisa O'Neill's a festival winner, so she's decent enough. So yeah, so is Biddick. So that, some decent ones in here. But that's the speed ratings to note down or take any interest of you want. If I go on the Instant Expert, this is on the win tabs. You can see who's kind of jumping out and who ticks all the race conditions. Well, Solstice Sun may be interesting. He comes here off a break, so probably a question about fitness. What Happens Now? It'll be interesting to see what odds he's put in at. I should think he will be short enough and up at the top end of the market. The data back in was probably last time out when he was 10s and then 8s and kind of won this well. I see no reason why he won't run exactly the same race again. Whether or not he bumps into anything with more in hand, we shall see, but he'll be up there. We know he handles conditions, and he is unexposed as a chaser in these conditions, I think. So the mark might not be too much of a concern, as he might be able to improve past it. Lamar Codd ticks a few boxes if you can kind of forgive recent form, but I'm not here to look into the horses in great depth. Again, you can visualize what's in front of you there and take any notes that you deem appropriate on any factors that you see as might be important, whether that's course form, distance, handicap marks against last win, or whatever. You can see the place tab there, so there's horses that are placed in conditions, lots of green and amber. As always, most handicaps at this track are fairly competitive. And the final thing I want to do is look at pace. We've got this decent little graphic here, so you can kind of get an image and an idea of where the pace might be. What Happens Now is going to be up there. If I click on the data, you can see, if I just look at the prominent and lead stats here, kind of who does well. So that's, kind of pays to be up there. Hello, sorry, I just paused that video briefly while I took a phone call. What was I saying? Pace, probably. Yes, of interest, it looks like What Happens Now and Derek O'Connor will be able to ride or kind of run on the front end, either leading or tracking the pace. Solstice Sun has been off the track for a while, so we shall see if he's fit enough, and if they send him forward. And the same with Dueling Banjos. I expect Jamie Codd to be up there. I should think Codd and O'Connor, well, it's not impossible. These two have it to themselves for most of the way round here. Lisa O'Neill might try and be up there, but the horse's confidence maybe not, having fallen last time out, etc. So in any case, you can see there what are kind of what's likely to lead and be on the front end, and it looks like some of those may be able to go their own pace. We shall see. So that's the 1240. I'll probably try and have a closer look at that race, given it's class 3 and above and it's 3 miles or further, and see what the market is, etc. So that's the first race. Then we've got this novices handicap hurdle. What do I want to note? What am I ticking through to 15 minutes in another short video? Dan Skelton is in form, as touched on. Fergal O'Brien is in form. Kerry Lee have been going okay. This is probably not the type of race to go too mad in, is it really, in truth? If I look at the instant expert on the win tab, you will see there Champagne City looks interesting. Who else has won at the class? Banditry, Agent or Argent Knight, but of course you're dealing here with plenty of horses that are fairly unexposed, and their better days could well be ahead of them. So a kind of you've got horses with form in the book, as you can see, up against unexposed, plenty of unexposed types who as yet may not have shown their best, which makes this kind of tricky race a bit tricky and a bit of a minefield, and is why you probably shouldn't in general touch them unless you've got some kind of stats or a good way in. So that's that. Pace is interesting in this one, mainly because it looks like Manlook could be able to get an easy lead here again. He won over further at Bangor. It'll be interesting to see what they do. There are no other kind of regular front runners in this. The Sophie Leach horse can be up there. John Joe's has kind of been held up on and raced prominently, so we shall see. But I should think Will Kennedy, given this horse has extra stamina, might try and be aggressive here. It'll be interesting what odds he is, but with 16 or more runners and 4 places to aim at, McCain's are going okay. The horse is kind of unexposed in handicap hurdles, I think. Might be interesting enough, possibly, depending if he's an each-way price, which might be wise given the number of places and the fact the kind of opposition you're dealing with. Like I said, plenty of unexposed types. There's the speed ratings. You can have a look through there. There's some kind of real low ones at the bottom, so it'll be interesting to see if kind of they stack up. And as you move further towards the top, as you can see there, Fergal O'Brien, Paddy Brennan have one, so that's something to note given how on form they have been recently. So that's that. Then we've got the handicap chase, a 2-miler. There's no trainers that are kind of bang in form. I suppose we've got Tizard's. Mick Thonick walked through the fence last time, and possibly Brian Cooper's been jocked off. I'm not sure. Now, sadly, Mr. Potts has died. I'm not quite sure what say he had in who rode who when it came for a choice like this between Power and Cooper, or whether or not he left that down to the trainer. So that would be interesting to see. But in any case, yeah, Robbie Power's over, so that maybe should be noted. And we've got, yeah, I suppose Shanahan's turn might be interesting because it's Tizard and those stats that I touched on and how he targeted this meeting last year. You can see there he's got some decent stats with horses that he takes some new yards as well that run for first time for him. 4th and 22 in the last couple of years, and a decent profit level as well, so that might be of some interest. If I use the instant expert tab, Do It for the Village ticks quite a few boxes and looks interesting on that front. Course form would be a question. He's ran here once, finished unplaced. But plenty of horses do win at this meeting. The majority actually who have never ran at Cheltenham before. So don't necessarily get caught up or mixed up in Cheltenham form being everything, because it really isn't. That's a bit different from kind of the festival possibly generally, but certainly at these meetings I wouldn't be put off by a horse that doesn't necessarily have Cheltenham form unless they've ran here a few times and obviously haven't handled it or have it to prove. So that's interesting. You can use that as you please. If I flip through on the pace, the speed rating, sorry, you can see the different things there. This looks a bit of a minefield, this race as well. The pace, I'm not quite sure. I don't think these have updated necessarily the stats. But you've got, yeah, Shanahan's turn can race promptly, or did do for old connections. So it'll be interesting, or old trainer. It'll be interesting to see if he does the same here. John Joe's can be up there. Mick Tonic can be. Be interested to see what they do with him after that horrendous error the last day. And he was pulled up. That's a U and a P now. So some questions there. But yeah, that looks interesting, I suppose, and a bit of a minefield in the race that might give me a headache if I decide to have a closer look. But yeah, use that information as you please. I'm going to skip on as I fly through 20 minutes on to the next novices chase. I'm not really too fussed about this. You can see the trainers who are in form there. You can see the horse that clearly has the star quality and the form on paper. But you know, some interesting ones on the speed figure. Move of the Times is interesting, although Finian's Oscar probably dossed and could have done a lot more at Chepstow, which might have impacted that figure. But yeah, that's interesting. You've got Nichols, who does well in novice chases at this meeting. Henderson, who any one of his horses that's kind of that top end of the market is interesting. So this isn't necessarily nailed on for Finian's Oscar. It might take some winning, but I am going to skip through that. Then the cross country, I don't really have any views on this either. Generally, Mr. Bolger is the place to focus. If I look at well, you can see who's informed. Gordon Elliott, Cause of Causes. He might have targets in mind further down the line. The market may well guide to that one, not sure. You'd have thought they'd be trying to run him in the Grand National again. Cantlow, you know, his one round here, hasn't he? You've got his other horse here. Yeah, this isn't a race I know too much on or have too strong a view here. If I use the instant expert, you can see the two horses which stand out there in terms of suitability to conditions and those that have proven stamina, as well as Cantlow and Kingswell Theatre. The rest have it all to prove really over this trip. The pace. What have we got? We've got the John Joe horse, but he is completely out of form, and I wonder if they'll be that aggressive with him around this track. But if they are, given there are no other front runners, he looks in awful form, but you never know. This cross country course might spark him up and he might cling on valiantly for third, or probably fall or unseat or be tailed off, maybe more likely. What else have we got? Yeah, there's not much else I want to say on that. Yeah, the purpose for me isn't to kind of come up with a horse I like live, because I haven't really looked at these races in the depth that they would deserve. And you could spend 20 minutes on one of these races and come nowhere near to finding the winner. So there's that information to use as you please. Like I said, there's the speed ratings information. You can see the trainers that are in form. Bolger has done well, kind of, you know, he doesn't mess around when he sends runners to this track. So that's that. And then we move on to the 335, which is a Grade 2 novices hurdle. Well, where to start with that? Again, you've got some big yards represented who are all in form. Even Tizzards are going well, so there's kind of no way in there. Speed ratings with these kind of runners are hard to weigh up because the horses have been running. Some of them have been winning very well and kind of eased down in latter stages. Although I say that with not 100%. Or limited knowledge on how actually Dr. Peter May constitutes these figures, so I might be just talking absolute nonsense there. But so on the bare face of it, Callet Mad has a pretty impressive figure, which you might think of interest. But again, that given your unexposed horses that are kind of have done very well last time out, unless there's a kind of stats way in. Or you're actually going racing. I'm not 100% sure why you would dive into a race like this, because it looks a bit of a minefield, if you ask me, and one worth watching with the future in mind. But yes, that's that. That's a quick flick through. Hopefully something of interest there, whether it would be trainer form, who's going well, who looks suitable to conditions on a quick glance at the instant expert, the pace, the speed ratings, and hopefully that you might have picked up something there which can help in your own analysis. But as I kind of tick past 24 minutes and hurtle towards 25, it's probably best that I leave that there. I will have a look at some any kind of stats or trends for some of the odd races for Friday. There's certainly some for kind of Saturday and Sunday I'll be interested in. So yes, that's that. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that of some use. And this is me saying, yeah, bye for now.